So, welcome back friends. In the series of our discussion related to effectiveness of communication, we just saw in the last session how communication process works, and I sort of refrained from elaborating upon the specific elements of the communication process, though I tried to emphasize upon how reflexivity connects all those elements and how the message when conceived in one form reaches in the same form as and is interpreted there in the same manner by the receiver if reflexivity perspective is there. And I want you to remember that we discussed so many messages and advertisements there. Just keeping that in mind, let us talk of consumer behavior now, because subsequent to this we would be referring to communication and consumer behavior in relation to each other, because then we will try to analyze or learn, analyze slightly a heavier word. So, we will try to learn how communication actually generates consumer behavior. So, there is a definition in front of you which I have taken from American Marketing Association website, and let us try and decipher this definition for few minutes so as to understand how to look at the concept of consumer behavior. There are very effective books, wonderful books written on this subject. This subject is specifically taught as a complete course in institutions, and definitely there are several sources to go for deeper understanding of this subject, specifically consumer behavior. But here we would be referring to this in conceptual terms, especially in relation to communication, integrated marketing communication. Because communication is directed towards consumers and you desire an effect and impact, so that is why we are worried about consumer behavior. So, consumer behavior refers to the study of how customers, both individual and organizations, satisfy their needs and wants by choosing, purchasing, using and disposing of goods, ideas and services. Now, when you say goods, you can talk about choosing, purchasing, using and disposing an automotive, for example. How many of you are actually looking forward to purchase an automotive these days? Many of you would definitely be. Someone would be purchasing first motorbike or second motorbike or scooter or Honda Activa or an automotive, a car. I have been thinking in terms of changing my own car for quite some years now and haven't been able to. I will not tell you the story why, but again kind of because I have not been able to dispose my car for example. But again the point is that choosing, purchasing, using and disposing of goods, ideas and then services. So, you see, we are referring to what? That behavior is a reflection of thought process, thoughts, words, inputs, maybe in terms of culture, society, education, people, books or influencers for that matter, or experience, or you may say summarily the experience generated with every element as far as this whole thing goes. Let me talk about behavioral element a bit more before I go ahead with elaborating upon this aspect of the sequence associated with these terms, or let us say a probable sequence associated with these terms. Behavior is associated with being a response. Something comes to your mind and you act upon it. Your behavior was good today, your behavior was not so appropriate today. So, you behave, you have acted upon. And there is a whole lot of thing associated with cognition, attitude, learning and so on. I would not go into specific details of that. Maybe later on when we talk about psychological and sociological elements of consumer behavior, which is in association with communication generated by integrated marketing communication and so on. But at this moment, just remember, when someone says you behaved well, so you acted upon something which actually came to you. You behaved good in this kind of a situation. And one thing which is very important for us to understand, though it is one of the most talked about subjects in this world, human behavior and consumer behavior, anything which has to do with the consumer or a human being a consumer. So, it is slightly on the similar lines. So, it is very intensely talked about subject, but I wonder that have we been able to understand people's behavior at all? Ask those products which have been rejected without reason. They have been claiming up till now that they have been doing exceptionally well because their customer has been responding to them or their calls very well. They suddenly get rejected and you ask them why, somehow you could not understand the changing behavior of a customer, and they would say that it suddenly changed. What do you mean by suddenly changed actually? How could it suddenly change? That is precisely what we are talking of. It is most talked about, probably least understood. We have several models on that. All of them those models are right. All of those models carry perspective which is well researched, and they give you a very specific idea on, but beyond a certain point, to my experience, no organization can claim that they have understood the behavior of their customers well. So, the lesson, the takeaway of this session is that it actually it is an evolving kind of thing despite of whatever our understanding about it is, and because it is an evolving and ever changing kind of thing, and there is lots of reflexivity and reflection associated with as far as our communication process for generating a particular kind of a behavior amongst our customer goes, our reflexivity has to be intense and continuously watched about kind of a thing basically. We should not go there once and come back. We should keep going there and keep coming back, meaning thereby wear your customer's shoes every day. For example, a newspaper. You feel that your newspaper is established, people are continuously reading that, they are enjoying it, and you have been there, you know what your customer wants. So, you have positioned yourself and you have started giving messages to the customer about your newspaper in a way the customer would like. Customer liked it, customer did it. They started, they kept on reading that, but after a particular stage you became comfortable and suddenly customer stopped reading your newspaper. Why? You do not know, because you stopped visiting that place. So, behavior is a response function, and now try and understand this thought process. What generates that thought process? Remember when we talked about associative chord, associative memory, priming, rhyming, kind of. It brings a frame of or a sequence of thoughts in your mind basically. For example, I say bachpan, it takes you there, whole lot of a sequence of years in your mind. And if you are a father or a mother of a young child, again that sequence connected to this sequence kind of. For example, if you are not married and you are visiting home from your college or somewhere you work, and most of the times you hear this word when your mother and your father or especially your mother says, you used to do this in your childhood, tum bachpan mein you used to do this in your, and that is where this kind of, you become childlike at that moment, no? You do. You do. Thought process associated with thoughts, which are nurtured continuously. They are continuously there. Why they are continuously there? Magic of words flowing around you through several thousands of advertisements, through several messages around you every now and then. So, it keeps on. At this particular moment you have this thought. How many times you have not felt a craving for eating a chocolate? If you are a chocolate lover, how many times you have not felt a craving of eating a chocolate after seeing the message actually? And let me be sure, ice cream, I am pretty sure that however, whenever you watch an advertisement of an ice cream, kind of that comes to your mind, kind of hot samosa coming out of this ghee. I don't know how many of you like samosa, but still, and then pizza, McDonald's. You see, those advertisements actually they instigate. Then those words with those thoughts, they remain there and they keep on creating effect on. And ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about consumer behavior here. And just recall this, that how customers satisfy their needs and wants by choosing, purchasing, using and disposing goods. Choice and purchase, that is where IMC comes in specifically, and definitely after that as well, in disposing as well. But again the point is, specifically, very emphasizingly it comes at the stage of choosing a product, where it generates a reference, a chord for you to move towards that product basically. It definitely would be happening with you. You are in a shopping mall looking at different shelves, some product is in your mind. You are not there to purchase a particular product which suddenly gains your attention and that message comes to your mind and you happen to go there and just pick it up. This might have happened to you in case of purchasing a shirt, for example, or purchasing a perfume, some soap, something which you like and wherein that message is hovering around you many a times. And it happens in case of movies many times, many times, Despite of this COVID, No Time to Die, what is that name of that movie, the Bond movie, the latest movie which has come up. So that was there in the minds of people because it had to be launched pre-COVID. Somehow COVID came in between and that was delayed, but I have been told it is doing okay. People are visiting multiplexes just to watch that Bond movie, last movie by Daniel Craig, kind of. So definitely, that was there, the clipping was there and it got enhanced in due course of time. So, you see inputs. Now, words, they definitely are associated with inputs, culture, society, what kind of a social framework, and it is very striking when you stay at home. So, there is a social structure which guides you. When you come to your college or institution, there is another social culture and social structure which guides you. So, here definitely the difference in the input level would create a difference in deciphering of the similar kinds of words in your minds and definitely would influence your choices. And it has been very specifically seen that consumer behavior gets differentiated because of different kinds of social structure. People behave differently in different kinds of gatherings and so on. And when you go to a different kind of a place along with your family, your behavior is different. When you visit the same place with your friends, your behavior is different. And that actually influences your choices as well. I will come back to this with specifically some pertinent inputs in relation to psychological and sociological elements of behavior in relation to communication in the next section. But then, and education is a big influencer. People are one of the biggest influencers, you know, many a times, or almost in all the cases we have been found saying that he said this, she said this. You recall something being said by someone which influences your thought process, even if you do not give that kind of a credibility, that kind of a person basically. And if that person is credible, then definitely it affects you. In academics where I stand, references are the most important things. We refer to whatever has been said by thinkers and researchers. And at this moment, what am I doing with you? I have been referring to several authors of our times. So, references are there, people, books, and your experience with every element influences your behavior. And that is why they say reading, focus, respect, and these kind of elements, they keep on shaping your behavior in due course of time. Do you want me to give a formula on, I should not say formula, do you want me to give you a practice kind of a thing, how you can shape up your behavior experimentally? You want to do that? You can do it in two ways, and this is the last part of my session in relation to consumer behavior. I will be elaborating this few elements later on as well, but let's finish with an experiment here. An interesting experiment is, choose two very strong messages or the advertisements which you would enjoy. One about a product which you might not immediately need, and it should not be very costly, definitely, because that will come as a big consideration in your mind then. So it should not be that costly. So, one product which you do not need at this particular moment, should not be costly. Keep the message in your mind, or watch that message quite a few times continuously, enjoy that message, keep it in mind, just forget it after that. And the message about a product which you need actually, both ways. Keep watching that, and if you are specifically needing that product, then watch some comparative advertisement also, one or two organizations, companies. For example, you want to drink a soft drink this evening. So, watch one or two advertisements, one about a latest soft drink which has come to the market, one which you are traditionally drinking and you want to drink a soft drink today, or you are planning to go out with your friends somehow. Watch your behavior today evening while choosing that particular soft drink. Even if you end up choosing your favorite one, still you would pause, you would think twice about the soft drink which you would be leaving. You would be tempted to try that one out at least for once, which you have not consumed before, and the advertisement you would have seen. Now you are roaming around with your friends in the shopping mall and try and look for same product which you have watched about and you do not need that, for example a pen or something else, and feel that temptation which comes to your mind kind of about purchasing that product. Try and find the behavioral change which you might experience in yourself because of particular kind of a communication. I would be elaborating this in the next section, that is why I am sort of allocating or suggesting this exercise. Now, one thing which will make things more interesting, and try these out in few days from now. Start reading a good book, for example, kind of the book which talks about happiness or glory of life. Try and monitor the change which that read would bring to you in times to come, or try to focus upon few things. stabilize your thoughts. There are several practice sessions which are going on around on E mode as well as physical mode, wherein they teach you how to focus or how to meditate. So, try to do that and try and experience the change which you would start getting in your behavior in times to come. Both ways you would realize the power of thought process, thoughts, words, inputs, and then try and associate how you have been raised in due course of time. What is the social structure we are following? Try and compare those, how you behave at home and how you behave in your own society, and how it influences your product choices actually. And then you will understand the power of consumer behavior when you will try to experiment that on yourself. This would be a great learning experience. I can give you a model on reading, focus, respect, less self and doubting everything, but at this moment I would refrain to do that. I will elaborate about this model sometime later, wherein I would tell you that how this model, which I should not say developed, basically we learned and we assimilated from so many researches which have been done in due course of time, and we have tried to fundamentally understand and project that how these elements they tend to shape our behavior in due course of time. If you practice these 5 elements of reading, focus, respect, less self and not doubting everything, refraining from doubting everything. So, I will leave you with this thought. I will not extremely elaborate upon this, because we have yet to talk about these elements. We have to structure this kind of a thought process, because in couple of sessions later we would be percolating down to very specific elements of integrated marketing communication, wherein one session would be focused upon, let us say, objectives and budgeting, and I will be talking about very plainly on how to budget things and what kinds of budgets are there. So, that would not be so kind of creative, but that would be necessary for our learning. And then we would definitely come back to the creative side in terms of when we will refer about different modes, advertising for example, personal selling for example, sales promotion for example, direct selling for example and so on, and we will try to talk about several nitty-gritties of how things would go in due course of time. But till then, start collecting the elements which we have learned up till now, jot those down, assimilate those and keep on watching beautiful, interesting advertisements all through. Goodbye for now, see you next time. Thank you.